Welcome back, everyone, to the Creative Moment, Season 6, Episode 7. Already almost done with our 6th season here, getting right into the midst of summer, which means my pool is still not open, but I digress. I'm Dante Bullhauer, photographer, Jamie Bullhauer, the writer. We are here today to drop some more absolute value on your timeline this evening. So we're going to go ahead and have our 7:30 p.m. bubblers.
Okay.
Had a long road trip today for them. So today we are talking about creativity parasites. The things, whether it's a tangible thing or a maybe lifestyle choice, something that can kill your creativity and kind of maybe put you in a rut or just kind of circumvent the creative path that you want to go on. So I've experienced a few of these.
And I'm kind of experiencing like maybe number one.
I think go ahead, because I think I know what at least one of yours is going to be in this episode.
Well, yeah. So,
I don't know if it's the first one you're going to bring up or the last, but I have a good feeling.
Oh, so obviously a big road trip. We traveled for the sister's first basketball tournament and stuff, and then it's like, gotta get this, recorded and stuff like that. And so the first thing that will, I think, obviously always get you with your creativity is being overly tired. Because sometimes you got to work. Sometimes I do stay up late at night because, I have a cup of coffee or whatever. You can handle some of that. But when you have a long stretch that you got a lot of work to do, or you do something like, basketball tournaments are fun and stuff, but yet they're actually, it's amazing how tired you get just by sitting and watching, because your emotions come into play, and then you crash, and then your
day revolves around that.
Yeah,
so it's not necessarily
no time to recoup or something. It's like, okay, you got to be back here at the gym at this and stuff. And so if you feel like your creativity is suffering and stuff like that, one of the first things is to look at what has your schedule been, and have you got enough sleep? Are you fresh? Are you tired? And it's not an easy thing to solve. Yet not a good night rest doesn't always solve it, because especially if you're working your winter your sleep schedule does get off, but you've also got deadline, and next weekend, and and it like that tiredness is maybe the number one.
And I think that creative or even just mental stimulation, and this is factual with dogs at least, but mental stimulation exhausts you more than physical stimulation does. Like, to bring it into the canine world, when I was going through dog training with my dog, my dog trainer said that 30 minutes of mental stimulation, learning new tricks and that sort of stuff, is like an hour to an hour and a half of physical for them. Partially because of recovery times, physically you recover quicker. Not when you're 102 like him, but mental stimulation, especially when you cross the boundary into overstimulation, really exhausts you. And so after a week of state basketball, I can't think of a new idea. I can't, you work so hard in that little period of time, or you're so engaged with something else that it's hard to click back into that flow, because it does take a lot of actual effort to be just even the littlest bit creative. And I really do tangibly feel that after state events or long weeks or things like that. I struggle to come up with new ideas or new creations or things like that. So that's definitely something that maybe you don't realize all the time, but when you go back and look, you're like, if you look at the week, it was pretty overstimulating, whether it was creatively or not, and that can hamper.
And sometimes in my world, summertime to a degree is some of the best creative aspects, because I do not have my everyday job. And so I don't have to grade 52 essays over the weekend, and so then I can feel that rejuvenated spirit, mental part, but you can still get tired in different ways. And so you got to make sure that you're being aware, because yes, obviously a good sleep cycle is really good too, and that's just good natural health for you. But if you know, or you have deadlines or stuff like that, making sure taking, naps even, stuff like that. Like sometimes that's small.
I used to hate naps, and I don't take them as much anymore. But like, they're instrumental in everyday life. I will say. So yeah, that's definitely a huge component. My number one, kind of flowing into tiredness, is just overstimulation, specifically creatively. When every day I wake up and it's just supposed to be, I guess you could say burnout, but kind of different.
Yeah, I get
similar to burnout. Just when you have to come up with so many new things in a short period of time in that creative realm, you start to feel less creative because you just feel like, okay, well, my bag of tricks is empty now, and I've used everything. So for like the winter state events, I have to do a lot of graphics, girls basketball, boys basketball, all that stuff. And when you have to create so much different content that still holds to your standard, you start to think, okay, well, I'm kind of reusing this trick, or I'm reusing this texture or something. And so having too much of a workload creatively really hampers me, because I start to feel less creative. I start to try and do things that maybe I know won't work, but I just feel like I need to do something else. And it's hard to kind of to feel revamped in that mode. And so for a week when I'm creating all these hype videos, or for a month where I'm creating 20 different hype videos, I feel like I've used everything that I have. like to this point, all my knowledge is used. And that's a hard thing to kind of want to keep going in. You kind of feel like you're plateauing. And that's a hard place to navigate, because at the same time, you want to continue to improve, but having the perspective of, okay, well, one, you're always learning, but you can only learn like so much in a week or a month or whatever. And so where you're at right now is where you're going to have to settle for with your quality of work for this time period. And so kind of the overstimulation burnout is one of mine that I'll say really I struggle with, especially when it's heavy into sports for the spring and then seniors for the summer. By the end of the summer, I'm like, I don't know any more poses. I learned like 10 new poses, and now I don't know anymore. So that kind of the creatively specific over mental exhaustion stimulation.
And I can understand that to a degree, a little bit, like with April, is write a poem a month, and that by the end of the month, I'm just like, okay, I'm good, because one, it's always a prompt too, like, and then I usually adding a poetic form with that and trying to decide on that. The hard part with that is, depending on what you're doing, is to be energized that way. I know you take vacations. Sometimes maybe it's switching gears, so I will, after April or something like that, like read other people's work, stuff. Give yourself a different avenue to explore your creative world, to fill that tiredness that is more mental and inspirational than it is physical. Like that usually helps, even if it's going to the art museum or taking a walk, just something that lets your mental part go.
A balance of consumption and creation is very helpful.
And I think because if you overcreate, you're not bringing in any inspiration, new ideas. And even though, like, how many love songs are there in music? You know, like, honestly, think about that. Think country, rap, like, we talk about love. And meaning, though, I use that example because you might think, oh, there's nothing new. But you hear somebody else's or you see somebody else's thing, you're like, oh, you know, just a different flavor of what they do. And it fills your creative bucket a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that my second idea that I thought of as doing that is tied to both of those because I think it shows up when you're in those states that you're physically tired or you're mentally tired, and that is that little voice of doubt. Doubt will keep you from either stepping outside of your comfort zone, trying something new, or actually striving forward, because I think we all have kind of big goals. We all have big things that we want to do. There's things we're comfortable with in our creative endeavors. But yeah, you know, it's out there. There's that you know, my big goal, and once I got to get the novels written, you know, be on the New York Times best-selling list. You know, stuff like that. So when you're really tired, though, that's when doubt really creeps in the strongest. Doesn't mean it's not there at other times too, but as an athlete, you know that happens too. Like, that state of tiredness leads into the one thing that will definitely, because it is, to a degree, it is easier not to be creative, to just go ahead and just like, oh, I'm not a good, or this is the best I can be, I'll just settle, and that voice of doubt kick in.
Doubt is very easily persuasive. Because it is just easier to lean into the doubt and the fear than it is to attack it and go beyond it. I've talked almost at length about, you know, last fall, and there was serious doubt about one, not only just my like creative ability, but my business ability to execute on that creativity that I thought I had, or was wavering on the thought that I had. And that's almost just like, not even creatively, just with life, doubt can really throw a wrench in just about anything.
Yeah.
And it's really weird when you look back after, like, so, what's that? Think Big, Dream Big or something book, whatever book, I've mentioned it before, but it says as soon as you start doubting something, just do it. If you start doubting your abilities, just like attack doubt with action. And that has been something that has helped me, at least, because I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'll be able to animate this or edit this way. Just do it, or attempt to do it, and you don't have time to forget about doubt because you're focused on the execution of it. And so if you adapt that mentality, and it is hard because the more you think about it.
But if you'll notice it, like when you're feeling on top of the world, it can still be there a little bit, but it's not when you're feeling fresh and stuff. And so it correlates to that aspect. So if you're really being hit with doubt, one of the things is, obviously I like that, just do it anyway. You know,
whether you fail or not.
Yeah, whether you fail or not, but you might want to be self-aware and like, okay, hold on, why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling so heavy? You know, and it could be creative tiredness, it could be physical tiredness, or you could just be realistic in the sense, okay, I have just worked, you know, overtime all week, and I'm trying to write this novel, or I'm trying to do this painting, and I'm just you know, it's like, okay, schedule something to do to refresh in a different way, you know. But attacking it, yeah, that's kind of.
You know, I try to practice what I preach. It doesn't always work, but it is a good mentality. Okay, I really don't want to write this email. Just do it. Just write it, get it over, done.
Yeah.
I really don't want to budget this month. Okay, just do it.
Okay,
that's a different doubt.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's just more regret than anything. Anyway. My second thing is routine. we talk about the importance of routine and the importance of kind of having, and humans are very much reliant on it. As much as we love to be spontaneous, kind of subconsciously we love having a routine and having, like a place to go to at the end of the day, a certain time clock that we clock in, clock out, that whole thing, a schedule. At the same time, moderation is everything. Too much of a routine can really just get you in a creative rut. And a lot of times I'll find this when I've spent too much time with, like, I try to change up my workspace, whether that's the couch, the desk, the little island here, whatever, in small increments any way I can. Because if you get too caught up in, okay, get up at 4, do this, do that, shower, go to the desk, work till 9, you start to kind of lose the flair and the just kind of zest of life, and you just kind of get caught in the going through the motions. And so getting too in depth to a routine, which is a big reason of why I travel so much, because it's the unknown part and the just kind of difference in normal life that really helps me stay creative. Like going to the Ozarks, it was super spontaneous, like booked at 8 p.m. and got up and went at 2 a.m. But just the fact of, I have no idea what I'm going to see on this hike. I have no, like, this is way different from what my normal day looks like, really just subconsciously relights the creative fire. And you start thinking of, oh, wow, this is so, I love this part about my day here. I can include this into my routine back home, or I love this creative thing that I did here. And when you just get caught in the everyday life, the commute to work, the go to work, come home, write for an hour, photograph, it becomes less creative. And kind of to my overstimulation of creativity, I get in such a routine with these seniors, especially because most of them are in Hastings, and most of them want to go downtown, so I go here to this block to that block around. And I stop kind of being creative in the sense of trying new things and trying new locations and stuff like that. So routine is my number 2 thing that can kind of really put you in kind of a rut that you don't always realize you're in, but once you get out of it, you're like, oh, this is a stark difference from where I was.
Okay. Is it interesting? Because routine, it is strength. It helps us.
You have to have
it. But yeah, I agree. Like if that is all that your creativity is, or your daily life is just the routine, yeah, because you just start going on autopilot. Yeah. And the creative spark, the muse, whatever, has a hard time fighting through that. So. My last one, my third one, they kind of domino effect a little bit as I was driving all this afternoon.
It's not Chicago.
No, I know. I was telling Mom, I was like, it's not like Minneapolis. Like, we're not, this is nice. So, because obviously I am a little bit physically tired. I'm a little mentally tired and stuff. Doubt creeps in with that. But then, if by chance you kind of listen to doubt, this is what I think what doubt really does, and the part that will really kill your creativity is forgetting why it really sparks. So it was a little bit deep here in that sense, the why aspect. They had some discussion of that, but. And I can see where also the routine can drain that also. And I had an interesting debate on Twitter, or the app formerly known as Twitter, about this aspect. But I won't get into that deep aspect of what brings creativity out. So it doesn't matter what it is, okay? Via dance, via sculpting, or stuff like that, as doubt influences us because it starts to make us say that our creative side, or a sense ourself, is not good enough to do this, whatever it might be. So then you just start letting that go, and you just start falling into routine or doing the same thing over or giving up, just like a fine.
Because you don't remember the purpose of why you started the endeavor.
What it actually does. And sometimes the hard part, I'm tired, but still dealing with the depth, because we do have these big dreams also. And accomplishing goals and aspirations takes a lot of energy. It will make you physically tired. It will make you mentally tired. Doubt will play in. And so, and you had that little line that it's just easy to give up when you hear. But by doing that, you kind of give up on who you are. Because we've said that our creative expression is a part of who we are. It is sometimes the most vulnerable, the most fearful, the most hardest thing to put out into the world with that, and doubt plays into that. But that's where if you start the domino and you work really hard, or you do some stuff and you get tired, okay, and then doubt kicks in and you don't rejuvenate, and then you really start to listen, and then you actually kind of forget why you're doing this, what it actually does for you. And by forgetting that, so whatever the muse hits you with, and sometimes muse hits us with some creative, crazy things, just do it. Like, I love that. Actually, that's kind of, I might have to read that book. We're gonna have to
the magic of thinking big.
Okay, the magic. All right, anyway,
or something like that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, though, if you stay centered on the reason why you're doing that, you can battle doubt. You can understand that you're tired. You can handle yourself. But I think forgetting it just kills it. And to a degree, I get kind of tired of the inspirational stuff on Twitter and Instagram and all that. Like, oh, everybody who gave up on their dream was only one step away from success. Well, dang it, I've been taking a lot of one steps for a long time. I'm all like, okay, is it, okay, I feel like quitting. Well, I better not. Nope, there's another step. That didn't work.
I took one more step.
Well, I took one more step. Nothing happened. But I know that deep down that I can't, even if I never get, I can't stop not right. I could. Honestly, there have been times I've felt and just give it up. And the problem is my life, my relationships, and honestly, all of it would be simply less than what it could be. And so my third one is, in a sense, forgetting your why.
Yeah, and because it shuts it down so fast when you do forget that, because I do think that is the biggest motivating factor behind it, is your purpose, your why. What are you doing this for? And if you have the right why, it's nearly impossible to forget. Like, we've both had our doubts and all this stuff where, is this really what we're supposed to do? But it's so hard to just leave that cold turkey and just stop doing it. I thought about, what else would I do if I didn't do this? I'm like, I would take this up as a hobby again, and then eventually start like. You would. You probably would. I couldn't leave it. I just couldn't. And that is just such a key thing to keep in mind, whether you write it down and put it on your bulletin board in your bedroom or what, just every day making sure that you know the bottom line reason of why you're doing it. Eventually it'll propel you to keep going, keep taking that next step, whether the staircase is endless or what. But and I feel like that, forgetting that why, we all kind of do at some point, but if you have the right one, it'll come back around. Like, if I did go work at Wendy's making the Baconators, I would keep my camera. I'd still do this in any capacity.
Yeah.
And a lot of these tie into each other, but that leading into my third is complacency. And that kind of comes with forgetting your why. In a way, you can tie them together, but with me using this as me affording my lifestyle, my way of making a living, it's easier, I feel, to just kind of be complacent with, okay, I'm good enough to make X amount of money or X amount of followers, whatever. And where you get into trouble is when that kind of like when you get that doubt and you get that kind of fear of failing, and you're like, okay, well, I at least know this is the bottom line. That's a really dangerous place to be if you are wavering on discipline or work ethic, and I've been there several times. Being complacent with where you're at, you don't feel the need to, and we've talked about, to learn more or to be more creative or to keep going, keep trying to push the envelope and be better, be more creative, and keep doing what you're doing at the level you're doing it. If you say, oh, I can just have 4 seniors a month and still get by, you can just kind of turn into, I only want to have 4 seniors a month, or whatever the metric is. And so being complacent with where you're at, whether it's your social media following or money that you're making, just kind of anything, it is really crucial that you keep remembering your why, keep your discipline and your work ethic at the very least the highest level it's ever been, if not push it farther, because otherwise you'll just kind of lose your creativity. And I kind of felt it last summer by senior 34. I'm like, I'll just go through the routine, and I know they'll like the pictures because all the 33 before I've liked them. And I sat there after that, and I'm like, that's not really what I want to. I don't want to just be like, oh, well, I know this value is good to the consumer and that the client, and that's all it is. No, I want to over-deliver every time, and I want to keep pushing the envelope of being creative, because that's what fulfills me. At the end of the day, it's not the money. That's a big part. But what fulfills me is the being creative, and the money is a byproduct of it, and something I'm lucky enough to be able to make a living out of. But being complacent takes away that fulfillment.
Yeah. And I understand, now it's been about 6 years maybe since I just, in a sense, totally revamped my knowledge of poetry, where I was like, okay, there's more, I'm missing something. In high school you take Shakespeare, you learn the sonnet, and now, I'm teach on the jam. I'm the king of form for the Move Me poetry community, and now a good friend of mine in that community, we were just talking about me getting last place at the last slam, and they're like, why are you doing that? Because and I'm like, well, because it's another poetic form, and I want to see what I can do with that. And so it makes a circle to a degree, and so can what kills creativity. I think yours actually be paid to, like, if you get a routine, you do. Mine is a little on the spiritual side or stuff. But by being in a positive circle, you energize yourself. You will still, you will still get tired. You will still have doubt. But it's a spiral upwards instead of a spiral downwards, and you come to the point where all of a sudden, you might let go of your creative endeavor, but then all of a sudden, I think everybody, at a certain point, okay, I got to get it back. They will come back to it, but you don't have to waste all that time. waste all that time in the negative. You will still face it on a positive upward, but
the negative will be the outlier instead of the positive being the outlier in those circles. Yeah, and there's so much variation day to day, week to week, month to month, that it's really hard to put together that upward spiral because there's so many negative outliers that come in there. But it's, again, I think the remembering your why one's probably the most crucial component to keep there, because if you don't have that, if you forget, why am I even doing this anymore, you won't make it, and you won't be able to stay creative, and you won't be able to keep building a positive spiral. It'll just die where it is. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Everyday life has positives and negatives with creativity.
Yep.
And life has its cycles. I mean, there are things outside of creativity that play into the routine, complacency, the why, all that stuff.
The being tired. Yep. Like, I'm just,
You're not tired from creativity this weekend. I mean, you spent it doing other things.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff is just kind of important to remember. But at the end of the day, if you do have that right why, you'll be able to kind of get on the other side of those kind of negative buildups.
Yeah.
That'll
because I think it makes you pay attention to, if you lose sight of it, then you just kind of like, okay, this is my day. Go if you have to work full time to help fund your creativity or do those things. It's easy to get routine. Like it does all connect, but our biggest outpoint is if you're feeling like you've lost your creativity, these are some things to pay attention to. And sometimes people don't. They know they're tired, but they don't actually like. Okay, hold on. Maybe I've been working way too much for a long time. I need. Like you do, like at the end of your big sessions, you do something spontaneous. Yeah. You go, it's incredible how just a small, change your route home.
You are that much more actively living. And that is a great way to just kind of get back into.
And start going upwards. Yep.
So that was season 6, episode 7 of The Creative Moment. If you want to check out his work, he blogs, he writes poetry on Twitter.
Got a new short story coming out on Writer's Launch tomorrow.
Writer's Launch, is that
It's an online lit mag website type of thing.
Okay, so we'll link that.
It should be.
We'll link that in the description.
Totally kind of crazy cool story.
Yeah. So that'll be YouTube, Spotify, wherever. There'll be links there. Check out all that stuff. I have some Instagram accounts. You can just find my name, Dante Bohauer, and hit my business account.
I have Instagram, but
he posts photography on Instagram. Some are good, some are something. Yeah, some are just photos. They are pictures, nonetheless. But that will all be linked if you want to check out kind of our work. Thanks again, always, for listening or watching, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.